Microphone check, 1, 2. Microphone check. All right. All right, we're going to ask the sisters to cover your heads, brothers uncover your head. We're going to go and open up for question and answer Bible study. And we're going to stand up. All right, go ahead.
Our Father which art in heaven,
Our Father which art in heaven,
hallowed be thy name.
hallowed be thy name.
Thy kingdom come,
Thy kingdom come.
thy will be done,
Thy will be done
in earth
in earth
as it is in heaven.
as it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread,
Give us this day our daily bread,
and forgive us our debts,
and forgive us our debts
as we forgive our debtors.
as we forgive our debtors.
And lead us not into temptation,
And lead us not into temptation,
but deliver us from evil.
but deliver us from evil.
For thine is the kingdom,
For thine is the kingdom,
and the power,
and the power,
and the glory,
and the glory,
forever.
forever.
In Jesus' holy name we pray.
In Jesus' holy name we pray.
Amen.
Amen. All right, so we're gonna go and open up for who have any questions? Like to present the first question? Feel free.
I have a question for Lindsay.
Okay. What's your question, Sister Sharon?
This is Cheryl Calvert.
Okay.
Okay, the question is in Genesis 4
Mm-hmm.
and 24.
Mm-hmm.
Genesis 4 and 24.
Genesis 4 and 24. All right, let's see what. All right, and what was your question regarding that?
Okay, how did Lamech know that, well, I guess Cain was his father, so I guess he would know, but I'm still going to ask a question. How did he know that there was a mark put upon Cain?
It doesn't. That's a good question. It doesn't really say how. It just really leaves it up to assumption, and
Okay.
and that's the best I can give you on that. It probably was something that was passed down or told. You know how some rumor, well, not necessarily rumors in this case. Well, rumors, but it just got some truth to it. But it probably was passed down. He probably told him. But let's go actually read it. Let's go up to. We're gonna go up to. Let's start at verse 13. This is after Cain killed his brother. So let's see what happened here. And read that aloud for me. Hold on 1 second.
Everyone else is now muted.
Okay, go and read that for me.
And Cain said unto the Lord, my punishment is greater than I can bear.
Mm-hmm.
Behold, thou hast driven me out this day from the face of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And from thy face shall I be hid.
Mm-hmm.
And I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond in the earth.
So this is the punishment that was put on Cain because of him killing his brother. And I just go to show you, that envy and that jealousy, or that envy, I should say, can have a lot of bad side effects, a lot of bad repercussions. But that's what he did. He ended up killing his brother. And so this what happened to him. What else to say, brother?
And it shall come to pass that everyone that findeth me shall slay me.
Mm-hmm.
And the Lord said unto him, therefore whosoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold.
Keep reading.
And the Lord set a mark upon Cain, lest any finding him should kill him.
Mm-hmm. So could nobody touch him, even though he thought that was gonna happen. You know, but the Lord put something on him, a mark where can nobody touch him. Well, go ahead. What else?
And Cain went out from the presence of the Lord and dwelt in the land of Nod on the east of Eden.
Uh-huh.
And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bare Enoch.
Uh-huh.
And he builded a city and called the name of the city after the name of his son Enoch.
Mm-hmm.
And unto Enoch was born Irad.
Mm-hmm.
And Irad begat Mahujael. And Mahujael begot Methuselah. Methusael. And Methusael begot Lamech.
Mm-hmm.
And Lamech took unto him 2 wives. The name of one was Ada, and the name of the other was Zillah.
Right, so let's see here. We got Enoch was born. Cain knew his wife, she conceived and bare Enoch. So that's 1. He built a city and called the name of the city. And Enoch was born. So that's his grandson. That would be Cain's grandson, Irad. And then Irad had a son. So that would be Cain's great-grandson. And then he, Mahujael begot Methuselah. So that would be his great-great-grandson. And then he begot Lamech. So we talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 generations down. So that's probably about 500 years. So we see, you know, based on how things were back then, they were living a long time. So, like I say, we don't have enough to really say whether or not he was there to tell him this or it was passed down. Trying to see how long he lived. But we do know that they did live a long time back then, and somehow or another, it did get down to his son, his great-great-great-grandson. You know, because like I said, it was 5 generations down. But it's not showing enough. But he did know about it, and that's why he says in verse 24, read that, please.
If Cain shall be avenged 7-fold, truly Lamech 70 and 7-fold.
So he knew, but let's come back up to, let's see what Lamech did. Look at verse, start at 19 for me.
And Lamech took unto him 2 wives. The name of the one was Ada, and the name of the other was Zillah. And Ada bare Jabal. He was the father of such as dwell in tents, and of such as have cattle. And his brother's name was Jubal. He was the father of all such as handle the harp and organ. And Zillah, she also bare Tubal Cain, an instructor of every artificer in brass and iron.
Keep reading.
And the sister of Tubal Cain was Naamah. And Lamech said unto his wives, Ada and Zillah, hear my voice, ye wives of Lamech. Hearken unto my speech, for I have slain a man to my wounding, and a young man to my hurt.
Right, so in other words, he done did some damage. He done killed somebody else, and now he done messed himself up. He done got himself in some trouble. He said, I've slain a man to my wounding, and a young man to my hurt. Now pay attention to what he say after that. Go ahead and read.
If Cain shall be avenged 7-fold.
Right, so he taking it back to what happened with his great-great-grandfather. If Cain shall be avenged 7-fold, what?
Truly Lamech 70 and 7-fold.
Right, so hey, I'm going to get worse than what he got. He say, I'm going to get 70 and 7-fold. And it just seemed like to me he would know better. You know what I'm saying? Because pay attention to what he said. He said, if Cain shall be avenged 7-fold, truly Lamech 70 and 7-fold. You know, so it seemed like he might have killed 2 people. Or it could just be the way it's worded. For I've slain a man to my wounding and a young man to my hurt. So it could be just one person. But the point is that, you know, he gonna get a worse punishment than his grandfather. Now, how he found out this information, like I said, don't know. I mean, it doesn't show, but he does know what his great grandfather did, though. But that's all I can give you on that, because it's not showing anything else. Give me 1 second here. Can you send me the key code, please?
The key code?
Yes, to the internet.
Oh, dang, yeah.
All right, just text it to my phone right quick, please.
All right.
All right, thank you, bro. All right, so let me open this back up.
Everyone else is now unmuted.
Okay, so yeah, that's the best I can see on the only thing I see right there, Sister Cheryl. But that's definitely a good question. But I don't see anything else on it. But like I say, he definitely knew about it.
I'm just wondering if it was not a mark or a curse or whatever on Cain's seed
Mm-hmm.
because of Cain killing Abel.
Nah, it don't say it was on the seed though.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? It doesn't say it was on the seed. You know, it could have just been on Cain himself because, and what leads me to believe that it was on Cain himself is because of what he was saying that was going to happen to him personally. You know what I'm saying? Like, he wasn't really crying out toward...
Well, I guess it was because Enoch came out of his lineage.
No, not that Enoch.
It is not the same meaning.
Nah, the Enoch we talking about came out of Seth.
And I tell you, that is really confusing when you read the Bible because of the names. Some of the names come up again.
Right.
But I know it'll say it so-and-so and so-and-so, the son of so-and-so and so-and-so. I understand that part. But here it doesn't really say.
Right.
Because this Enoch was Jerry's son. Okay?
Right. Yeah, if you look at the end of, right, the one you talking about come out of Seth, that's Jared's son. And that Canaan is not Cain though.
Okay.
See what you looking at right here, you looking at it's taking you down to all these brothers that hold on one second, let me see. I'm trying to see what this network key is.
And I just read this. I just read this last night, and I'm getting myself confused all over again.
Why is that?
Because I just looked at Enoch, and I know I just read this particular Enoch that I was asking about. That's not Seth's seed. It's Cain's seed.
Right.
I just confused myself just a few minutes ago.
But it's two of them though. Right. So yeah, the one. So say that last part again.
I was saying that the Enoch I was really referring to came out of Cain's seed, but I was confusing him just from looking at this just a few minutes ago. I was confusing him with the Enoch that came out of
Seth.
Seth's seed.
Oh, okay. I got you. Yeah, I can understand that though. I mean, you got those same names, so it only makes sense. But if you look at you got Seth. Let's see here. And Adam knew his wife again, and she bare a son and called him his name Seth. So in verse 25, right? It's gonna start picking up with Seth lineage. You see?
Okay, yeah, I see that.
You see that?
Yeah.
Right. So it kind of tells you what happened with Cain in 24, and then in 25 it jumps and tells you, right there it said Adam knew his wife again. So from that point on, now we're gonna get off into Seth. Then right after that, it said, "For God said, she hath appointed me another seed instead of Abel, whom Cain slew." And 26 says, "And to Seth, to him also there was born a son, and he called his name Enos. Then began men to call upon the name of the Lord." So from Seth's son, first son Enos, all the way down to Enoch, hey, these brothers was calling on the name of the Lord. In other words, they was coming back to the Lord. As far, as opposed to Canaan. First off, Abel, he was dead. And then Cain, he wasn't dealing with God like that because he had went on and separated him. You know, so if you look in Luke, he's not even considered the son of God. So those are key things to look for, you know what I'm saying, when you see the Enochs.
Okay.
As far as the name is concerned. So one is Cain's son and one is Seth's son.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Do we have any other questions online? On the phone line? Any questions? No questions on the phone line?
I don't have another one right now.
Oh, okay. All right, well, let's see here. Let's see what we got online. We got anything online? No, I guess it's a slow night tonight. Nothing online right now. Okay, there we go. Cephas, how would I explain that we literally drink wine on the Passover? Cleveland Robinson, yes, there were 2 Enochs. Abel to this day still cries out to heaven and will continue till the seed of Cain is whipped from the face of the earth. Where you get that from? What you mean by that, brother? Explain that to me. Let me see something. Cleveland Robinson, yes, there were 2 Enochs. Able to this day still. Okay. Yeah, let me get this up a little bit. Give me a microphone check real quick, Cam. Oh, yeah, leave it right there. Okay. All right. This one, you ain't gotta pull up. I already got it pulled up on you. I got invisible. It's already pulling you in. Okay. So I just need to see how you sound without. You ain't gotta pull up. Right, go ahead. I already got it pulled up.
Testing 1 2. Testing. Our Father which art in heaven.
So I just need to see how you sound without.
Testing 1 2. Testing. Our Father which art in heaven.
Okay, cool. What's that feedback we getting now? What's that?
Sound like it's pulling in the AC.
Okay, cool. What's that feedback we getting now? Okay, you good. No, not that.
Sound like it's pulling in the AC.
Like an echo of me talking. I heard it double. Okay, cool. What's that feedback we getting now? Okay, you good. No, not that. Sound like it's pulling in the AC. I think what it is, that might be too loud. Give me 1 second.
You an audiophile, man.
I
said you're an audiophile. Somebody who's very particular about his audio.
Got to.
Yeah.
Give me a check.
Mic check, testing. 1 2 3 4. Hebrew 1 2. The Lord is my shepherd. This book of the generations of Adam, in the day that God created man in the likeness of God, made he him. Male and female created he them and blessed them, and called their name Adam in the day when they were created.
Okay. All right, so we back. All right, so how would I explain that we literally drink wine on the Passover? Give me what was the scenario, Cephas? So I can better understand how to answer that question.
It says y'all sound good.
Okay, cool. Yeah, give me a scenario, or let me know what the question was, so I can answer that. You know what I'm saying? Because in my head, when I hear a question like that, the question online for the people on the phone, if you're not watching online, brother asked the question, how would I explain that we literally drink wine on the Passover? So, because, you know, and I just know from previous conversations or previous doctrine, you know, people tend to think that it wasn't literal wine. And some people even say, you know, that the Lord, he turned water into wine, but it wasn't like the fermented wine. You know, so listen, wine is wine. I don't care if it's fermented or not. If it wasn't fermented, or if it wasn't actually wine, it wouldn't be called wine. It'd be called grape juice. You know, it'd be called something else. But it was wine, and God is God. He can turn water into wine. He God. He do what he want to do. But he got the power to do that. But some people actually don't believe that it was wine. But let's go look at some in Deuteronomy chapter 14. Deuteronomy chapter 14, because this here covers the basis of this right here covers the basis of, you know, when you telling somebody about drinking in the Bible. Deuteronomy chapter 14. I'm trying to pull it up on the Eastwood. Let's see here, because it's going to give us some more references. Let's see here, Deuteronomy 14. Okay, Seventh-day churches, they believe that Jesus took bread and grape juice, not wine. Yeah, that's just something that, you know, they've concocted, because when you have made up a lie, and what he responded to those on the phone line, he said in Seventh-day Adventist churches, they believe that Jesus took bread and grape juice, not wine. But like I say, when you make up something, when you make up a lie, it's almost like you have to continue to lie.
Just to keep going.
Yeah, just to keep your lie going. So you just add a lie on top of lie on top of lie. But let's look through the Bible here. And then also he pointed out where it says in Matthew, Jesus said he wouldn't drink of the fruit of the vine until his Father's kingdom. So we're going to look at that also. Because that don't mean, I mean, hey, up until that time, he was drinking though. You know, he just said, I ain't going to do it no more until we get to the Father's kingdom. So, you know, that's just making reference to when he get back, even when he got up from the grave, you know, he wasn't dealing with wine no more. He ain't going to deal with it until his Father's kingdom get hit. So, but let's go look at this in Deuteronomy chapter 14. We're going to pick it up around start at verse 25 for me. Deuteronomy 14 and verse 25. All right, go and read that.
Then shalt thou turn it into money, and bind up the money in thine hand, and shall go unto the place which the Lord thy God shall choose. And thou shalt bestow that money for whatsoever thy soul lusteth after.
So now this is where, you know, the Lord is referring to, you know, Israel coming up to keep his feast and stuff like that. And if they happen to, you know, have items that they can't take up to the feast, as far as sheep and, you know, all that type of stuff they can't take up to the feast, well, you're going to tell them to do something with them. He say, you're going to turn it into money, right? He say, then shalt thou turn it into money, and bind up the money in thy hand, and thou shalt go into the place which the Lord thy God shall choose. Go on and read. Read 26 again.
And thou shalt bestow that money for whatsoever thy soul lusteth after.
Right. So after you sell your sheep, your cattle, you know, you're going to use that money for whatever your soul lusts after. Right? Because when you get to the place where you're going at, like in verse 23, he tells you here, you know, you're going to bring the tithe of your corn, of your wine, your oil, the firstlings of your herds, of thy flocks, that thou may learn to fear thy God always. But if you going too far, if it's, you know, the way where the Lord chooses to set his name is too far, go ahead and sell that stuff, turn it into money. Then when you get to the location where you're going at, then you can go ahead and buy whatever use it for whatever your soul lusts after. All right, so go ahead and read that. What did he say? For
oxen, or for sheep, or for wine, or for strong drink.
Now notice what he say though, right? Because we got a difference here. we got a the same train of thought though, but we just have one being a little bit stronger than the other, right? He said, "You gonna bestow that money for whatever your soul lusts after, for oxen or for sheep or for wine, or for strong drink." But we're not talking about just some grape juice here. We're talking about wine. Wine mean the same in the Old Testament as far as in this physical sense here, because you can also drink some spiritual wine that end up getting you drunk. That's what's going on with the world today. They're drinking this physical, spiritual wine. Got us all over the place. You know, but in this case right here, we talking about some physical wine that they were drinking, or God gave them permission to drink in the Old Testament. This is the same thing, you know, that Jesus was drinking during the time of the Passover. It didn't change. But like I say, when you sit up here and you lie, you have to, you know, try to keep the lie going. And that's mainly what the church is saying. Let's go look at, let's go look at, it's doing too much. Okay, connected. Give me 1 second here. My reader too. Goodness gracious, man. So far back. Man, why so close on this? All right, so anyway, y'all don't need to see my face. Y'all can see my reader. All right, so let's see here. Let's go to, let's go look at, and what we're looking at right now, we're just looking at, you know, how, whether they were drinking real wine during the Passover, or were they drinking some grape juice. And that's what people like to say, but that's not the case. But we're going to go look at the New Testament. Let's see what Jesus said when he came in the flesh. Because like I say, what people like to do is, in order for them to justify their lie, they'll keep on making up other stuff. They'll make up, you know, stuff on top of stuff. Like people say, okay, smoking and drinking and dancing is a sin. So because of that, you know, we gonna have to try to put something together to make you think that drinking is wrong. But there's nothing wrong with you drinking wine. Listen, I can show you different places in the Bible where it actually does you, it actually benefits you to drink some wine. In some instances, yeah. Shoot, it'll calm you down sometimes. You know. But let's see something. Let's Matthew chapter 11. Pick it up at verse 18. Matthew 11. We're going to pick this up at verse 18. All right, so Matthew 11, verse 18. Read that for me.
For John came neither eating nor drinking, and they say he hath a devil. The Son of Man came eating and drinking, and they say, behold, a man gluttonous and a winebibber.
Right, so it's always something. But look at what happened with John the Baptist. Say, for John came neither eating nor drinking. So he wasn't, you know, he wasn't eating or drinking when he came. So they said, what, he had the devil. Matter of fact, they say, I think he was eating locusts and wild honey. You know, so they look at that, you know, something wrong with this brother. You know, he eating this type of stuff. And he wasn't drinking either. Right? And they said he got a devil. But notice what it say about Jesus. It say the Son of Man came eating and drinking. But we ain't just talking about him eating and drinking some water. We're not talking about that. He say what? The Son of Man came eating and drinking, and they say what? Behold, a man gluttonous, what else?
And a winebibber.
And a winebibber. Like he is consumed with wine. He's a winebibber. In other words, he's a wino. Okay? But he wasn't talking about no grape juice here, but even Jesus, he was drinking some wine. Now let's go look at something else. Let's go look at, let's go see what happened at the party. When Jesus first got to the party, let's see here. when you turn the water into wine, let me close this out. Y'all give me 1 second. I'm using my resources. I think it was. Is it John 1? Wait, that was his first member. Okay, so let's see here. All right, give me 1 second. I'm gonna click this. Let's get the commentaries on it. John 2. Okay, cool. All right, so John chapter 2, and we're going to pick this up at, let's start this at verse 1. John chapter 2 and verse 1. Let's see what happened. We're going to see what happened when the Lord, when he went to this marriage. Let's see how this went down. John chapter 2. We're going to pick this up at verse 1. All right, go and read that for me, brother.
And the third day, there was a marriage in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. And both Jesus was called and his disciples to the marriage. And when they wanted wine, the mother of Jesus saith unto him, They have no wine. Jesus saith unto her, Woman, what have I to do with thee?
Keep reading.
Mine hour is not yet come. His mother saith unto the servants, Whatsoever he saith unto you, do it. And there were set there 6 water pots of stone, and after the manner of the purifying of the Jews, containing 2 or 3 firkins apiece.
So now this is Jesus showed up to the wedding, right? It said the third day there was a marriage in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. And both Jesus was called and his disciples was called to the marriage. And when they wanted wine, the mother of Jesus say unto him, They have no wine. Now, just think about this. Unless you at a false church wedding, more than likely, you ain't going to have no wine. But if you look at all the traditional weddings around the world, outside of this Sunday doctrine, everybody at these weddings, they're going to have something to drink on. They're going to have something to drink on, guaranteed. I was even getting questions about a previous engagement, and they was asking, where the alcohol at? He was like, it's BYOB, man. You know what I'm saying? But, hey, and then a few brothers went and grabbed some, but, that's common. It ain't common for them to go grab no grape juice, man. You know what I'm saying? So you see back here, they wanted wine. And the mother of Jesus said unto him, They have no wine, right? Go ahead and read verse 4.
Jesus saith unto her, Woman, what have I to do with thee? Mine hour is not yet come. His mother saith unto the servants, Whatsoever he saith unto you, do it.
Keep reading.
And there were set there 6 water pots of stone, after the manner of the purifying of the Jews. Okay,
so they put some water. They put some water pots of stone there, because he about to do something. Remember now, she came and told him, hey, we ain't got no wine. All right, go ahead. What else?
Containing 2 or 3 firkins apiece. Jesus saith unto them, Fill the water pots with water, and they filled them up to the brim.
Keep reading.
And he saith unto them,
now this is a miracle that the Lord is doing, right? He said, Jesus said unto them, Fill the water pots with water, and they filled them up to the brim. Go ahead and read.
And he saith unto them, Draw out now, and bear unto the governor of the feast. And they bear it.
So he said, what? Take this out and go give it to the governor of the feast. Go ahead.
When the ruler of the feast had tasted the water that was made wine, and knew not whence it was, but the servants which drew the water knew, the governor of the feast called the bridegroom, and saith unto him, Every man at the beginning doth set forth good wine.
Now pay attention now, because if we just drinking water, Cephas, or if God, because what you got to do is, the way I suggest you do this, I would go back to what was already being done before we even got to the Passover. You know what I'm saying? That's a good way to show the history of what he was doing in the first place. He was already drinking. And that's why he say when the ruler of the feast had tasted the water that was made wine. What verse you at? 8?
10.
Okay, read that 9 again for me.
When the ruler of the feast had tasted the water that was made wine,
Uh-huh.
and knew not whence it was, but the servants which drew the water knew, the governor of the feast called the bridegroom, and saith unto him, Every man at the beginning doth set forth good wine.
Uh-huh. Now pay attention to what the governor, the ruler of the feast of the governor saying. He says, every man at the beginning, talking about the beginning of the party or the beginning of the engagement, you go to somebody's house, you got a barbecue going on, you know, you want to bring that Hennessy out. We want to bring that yak out, that good stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And that's mainly what people do. But listen, we out of the realms of talking about grape juice. Way out of the realms of that. He said and said to him, every man at the beginning doth set forth good wine. Go ahead and read what else?
And when men have well drunk, then that which is worse. Mm-hmm. But thou hast kept the good wine until now.
But notice what he say, though. He said when they are well drunk, in other words, you get to the party, you drinking that good wine, you know, you done start buzzing real hard, and, you know, you done got a little tipsy. You know, your taste buds can handle anything now. It can be nasty as all get out. You know, doggone well you don't drink no Wild House Red Rose. But once you done start drinking, it don't matter. At the end of the party, you drink anything. So this is what this ruler was saying. He was saying, listen, at the beginning is when they bring forth that good wine. But what he's saying to Jesus, he said, but you done kept the good wine until now. We at the end of the party, you done brought out some fire drink, some good wine, because that's what Jesus did. It wasn't grape juice, though. It was actual wine that they was drinking. So now let's go look at what the Lord said about he won't drink of this wine till you get into the kingdom, the fruit of the vine. Let me go look at something. Let me find what that's at.
Somebody put it in the comments.
Yeah, Cephas did right here. Let's see here. Okay, give me 1 second, I'll get to you. Let's go look at this. Matthew, yeah, he said he won't drink of the vine till he get in his Father's kingdom. So let me pull this up. This is such a good, this is how I put my glasses together with these words. All right, so let's see here. Matthew chapter 26. Matter of fact, before we go there, let's go look at the Passover first. Now keep in mind now we've already established that Jesus was drinking some literal wine. Going back to the Old Testament, we see that, you know, he told you when you go to the place where he chooses to set his name there, if it's too far, go ahead and, you sell your stuff or whatever and bring that money up that you made from selling your stuff and use it for whatever your soul lusts after, whether it be wine or a strong drink. So, like I say, that's going to take you out of the realms of some strong grape juice. You know, we talking about some wine, and if you like to, drink on something a little bit more heavier, then, you got that freedom to do that. But now, let's see here. Mark chapter 14. No, we ain't going to do that. Hold on 1 second. Mark chapter 4. Oh, there's 14. Oh, yeah. All right, 14. Cool, we'll do that. Go to Mark chapter 14. We're going to look at, we'll start this at, Okay, so Mark 14. This is when he going to switch the Passover up, right? All right, so Mark 14, we're going to pick it up around verse 18. Mark 14, verse 18. See, it ain't nothing wrong with you drinking no wine. It ain't wrong with you drinking alcohol. You know, you just got to have, you got to have a just weight, a just balance. You know what I'm saying? Don't get too carried away. You know, you got to be mindful about how you do things, because listen, if, you know, it can lead you to sinning, but we don't have to lie and say that it's a sin for you to drink. If you don't know what sin is a transgression of the law. So what law are we talking about? In other words, you have to go back to the Old Testament, and you have to see, you got to be able to find in the Old Testament somewhere, because that's the law we're talking about, in the Old Testament, and the laws that he gave Moses and the children of Israel. You got to be able to find in there that he told them it's a sin, or I command you not to drink. But clearly we saw that that's not a problem. But you just, you know, don't get too carried away, because it can cause you to sin, though. So you just got to be mindful of that. Mark 14, pick this up at verse, start at 21. Mark 14, verse 21. All right, go ahead.
The Son of Man indeed goeth, as it is written of him, but woe to that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed.
Talking about his betrayal. Keep reading.
Good word for that man if he had never been born. And as they did eat, Jesus took bread and blessed and brake it and gave to them and said, take, eat, this is my body.
Okay, so now just pay attention now. This, instead of us doing the Passover the same way it was done back in the Old Testament, God has given us another way to do it. See, back then they would actually take the lamb, they would kill it on the 10th day and put it up until the 14th day at evening and kill it, right? And hey, that was that would represent the Passover. The lamb would. So now that Jesus is getting ready to die on the Passover, from this point on, you don't need this lamb no more, all right? And you don't need the blood of that lamb. But every time you come to Passover, which would be a memorial or commemoration, what we're going to do is we have a different way for you to observe this. And what God is doing, he's now taking it out of that realm of the lamb, and he's giving you something to signify him being that lamb now. That's why in John chapter 1, it tell you when John see Jesus coming the next day, he say, behold, the Lamb of God, which take away the sin of the world. But you can't get no higher sacrifice than that. So what we do now is we're going to have Jesus be the Passover. And every year in this season, when we come around to the Passover, what we're going to do is we're going to take some bread, which is unleavened bread, and we're going to take some wine. That bread going to represent his body. And what it said in verse 23, read that.
And he took the cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, and they all drank of it. And he said unto them, this is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed for many. Right,
so in addition to the question that's on YouTube, just to kind of piggyback with the answer right now, to kind of give you, because he said, I think, Jera said, good evening, family. Is animal sacrifice a blood covenant? And where is it at in the scriptures? All right, so just to kind of answer that question also, when you look at it, back in the day, excuse me, 1 second, that was the covenant, that was the animal's blood was a covenant that they used, or that was used to bring Israel into the covenant with the Lord. All right, but that still wasn't good enough. That blood wasn't good enough. So now we got a new covenant now. You go back to Exodus 24, brother, you'll be able to see that. Exodus 24 around verse 8, 9, and 10. And you'll see that Moses took the blood of the bulls or the animals that they had killed and put in the basins and put it on the altar, and they sprinkled it on the people. Then he said, behold, the blood of the covenant which God hath enjoined unto you. So at that point, they got married. Now we have a new covenant or a New Testament. And it's initiated by the blood of Jesus. That's why in verse 24 he said unto them, this is my blood of the New Testament, not the Old Testament. We're not going to use the blood of them bulls and goats like it was back then. We got a new way to bring you into this marriage, and to enjoin you to the Lord now. This is my blood of the New Testament, which is what? In the 24.
This is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed for many.
Keep reading.
Verily I say unto you, I will drink no more of the fruit of the vine.
Right, so we talking about, in this case right here, they may use to say grape juice, but we just know that he was using some literal wine to do the Passover. Now, your grapes do come from the vine, but there's a process that turns it into wine. The point is, he said he ain't gonna deal with it at all. Whether it's fermented or not, he ain't gonna deal with it. But we know based on how this Passover was done, he talking about, he ain't gonna drink, he not gonna drink of the fruit of the vine, but I'm not gonna take this wine, because that represents the Passover. Wine and unleavened bread does. So, some people, like I say, they have to try to continue on the lie, and they'll put other things on top of it to try to, cover up the lie. It ain't necessary. Just if you're going to drink, just don't get carried away. That's all. Be mindful of how much you drink. Don't go overboard with it. But now let's go here. Let's go. Do we have anything on the phone line before I go back to online? Anything on the phone line? Y'all still can hear me, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Just making sure. Anything on the phone line?
Well, yes, I do. I have one.
Mm-hmm.
It is Leviticus 25
Mm-hmm.
and 37.
Leviticus 25 and 37. Thou shalt not give him thy money upon usury, nor lend thy victuals for increase. Okay. So what was your question?
I'm just more or less concerned about the last half of that.
Mm-hmm.
Lend him thy victuals for increase.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
need a little bit of understanding.
And just say your food or victuals.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking at the definition now. It just says victual, it just means food or eating, meal, pray, P-R-E-Y. So don't lend it for increase. If you need it, give it to him. You know what I'm saying? So don't be trying to, charge somebody for some food. Yeah, I'm going to give you.
I got you.
Right. Because if you look at the verses, well, I know you see it. It's just talking about how to deal with your brother. 36 says, take thou no usury of him or increase. Well, 35. Read 35.
Okay. And if thy brother be waxing poor and fallen in decay with thee, then thou shalt relieve him.
Mm-hmm. So your brother end up falling, he in a bad situation, and he in a falling decay with you. He say, thou shalt relieve him. Don't try to, put more pressure on him than necessary. Just, let him go. Go ahead.
Yeah, though he be a stranger or a sojourner, that he may live with thee.
Right, so he say, yeah, though he be a stranger or a sojourner, that he may live with thee. Right, so just leave him alone. Go ahead.
Take thou no usury of him or increase, but fear thy God.
Right, but notice what it says. It say, don't take don't try to, loan him something and then you want to get more than what you gave out to him. I used to know people back in the day when I was a kid coming up. We would do stuff like that. If I let you borrow $1, when you pay me back in 2 weeks, bro, you need to give me $3 back. But this is what, and I know that's simple, but I'm just saying as kids, I remember practicing that. But the Lord is saying don't do that. Even as adults, you shouldn't be doing it. He said, take thou no usury of him or increase, but what?
Take thou no usury of him or increase.
You're going to have to put your hand on that spot. So you can stay with me, brother. He said, but fear thy God, that thy brother may live with thee. What he saying, 37?
Thou shalt not give him thy money upon usury.
Right, so don't give him thy money upon interest, in other words. You know. He said, nor lend him thy victuals for increase. So don't be trying to look for something back when you know the brother's struggling. You know what I'm saying? Just let him go. That's why I say in verse 35, you say, hold on one second. In verse 35, I'm looking up that decay. Oh, okay. And if thy brother be waxing poor and falling in slip, shake, be carried, cast, be out of course, falling in decay, falling down, be moved, be so in other words, when he done fell into hard times, in other words, you know what I'm saying, with thee, then, you know, thou shalt relieve him. Just let him go. Don't try to add on something to him. Just think about somebody you know think about somebody you let borrow some money to. You know. He can't get it back to you. Just chalk it up as a loss. That's why I say if I borrow, have some money I can borrow out, especially Israel, I just let it go. Like, don't even get it back, bro, because I don't want to put a strain on our relationship. You know, if it's too much now, I'll tell him I ain't got that. I can't do it. But if I got something I can give, I'll just gonna give it out. That way I don't put myself in this predicament. I don't get no ill feelings or nothing like that. You know, I don't want you to put yourself in a bind. Hey, I just go ahead and let you free you from it. That's all. But that's what he talking about right there.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's the rituals that I was thinking that was part of money as well.
Oh, okay. I got you. Yeah. When I looked up that definition, it was more related to food and pray and stuff like that. Yeah. All right. So you're welcome. Okay. Anything else on the phone line? Anything else on the phone line? I don't know. You got a lot of questions, Cephas. You've been doing some reading. Good job. All right. So now let's come up to good evening, Sister Sterling. Let's see here. It said, we're going to look at this question. His name is Jara, something like that. Is animal sacrifice a blood covenant, and where is it at in the scriptures? So let's go back over to, Leviticus. And it is a blood covenant. It's a blood covenant, but it was signifying something else. It is a blood covenant, but it was, like I said, it was signifying something else. So we're going to go to Exodus chapter 24. Exodus 24. All right, pick this up at Exodus 24. Start at verse 1.
And he said unto Moses, Come up unto the Lord, thou and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel, and worship ye afar off.
Mm-hmm.
And Moses alone shall come near the Lord, but they shall not come nigh, neither shall the people go up with him. And Moses came and told the people all the words of the Lord, and all the judgments, and all the people answered with one voice, and said, All the words which the Lord hath said will we do.
Now, what I want you to pay attention to, first and foremost, we got some words that are being put out here in order for this covenant to come into existence. All right, so let's see here, because that's how it has to happen first and foremost. All right, and it's the same thing that happened with us. You know, even in our time, you know, we got some words that's going to be put out there. And you're going to agree to these words when it comes to serving God. You're going to agree to these words, you know, and you got to hold up your end of the bargain. The Lord going to hold up his end of the bargain. And in our case, hey, when it's all said and done, it's everlasting life that we're, you know, looking forward to. But it says in verse 2, Moses alone shall come near the Lord, but they shall not come nigh, neither shall the people go up with him. And Moses came and told the people all the words of the Lord and all the judgments, and all the people answered with one voice and said, all the words which the Lord hath said, will we do. All right? And like I said, that's what you got to understand. See, so many of us, we think that, you know, we've been taught that since we're under new covenant, we don't have to keep the commandments no more. That's not the case. The difference between the covenants is the blood. But we still have the basis. We still have the foundation of the agreement. Like we still got the, you know, we still got the commandments there. We still got the dietary law. You know, we still got the feast days and stuff like that. You know, and that's what you're agreeing to do. You're agreeing to observe that when you come into the word. But even Israel's, the nation of Israel, hey, back in the day, they did this, came into this covenant with the Lord based on what he wanted done. What he put out there, they agreed to it. All right? So it says here, verse 3, all the words which the Lord hath said will we do. All right? Go and keep reading. Verse 4, what does it say, brother?
And Moses wrote all the words of the Lord and rose up early in the morning and builded an altar under the hill and 12 pillars according to the 12 tribes of Israel.
Keep reading.
And he sent young men of the children of Israel, which offered burnt offerings and sacrificed peace offerings of oxen unto the Lord.
Now, this is what I want you to pay attention to, right? After Moses wrote all the words of the Lord, he sent young men of the children of Israel, which offered burnt offerings and sacrificed peace offerings of oxen unto the Lord, right? But pay attention to what they did with that blood from those animals that they offered up. What it say in verse 6?
And Moses took half of the blood and put it in basins, and half of the blood he sprinkled on the altar.
Okay, because we got to do something with the blood. We got the animals being offered up, right? But he still got to do something with that blood. So it say he took half of the blood, put it in basins, and half of the blood he sprinkled on the altar. All right, so him sprinkling this blood on the altar would be, you know, a representation of all the holy things, you know, dealing with God and stuff like that. You know. What else he say, brother?
And he took the book of the covenant and read in the audience of the people.
Now pay attention. What's going on again now? Because he done already sprinkled the blood on the altar. You know. Then he turned around. We going to read it. He said what? He took the book of the covenant and read in the audience of the people. And they said what?
All that the Lord have said will we do and be obedient.
Right. So, hey, it's like what you doing, like every time we do a baptism, we like to make sure we do a class, you know, the day of the baptism. I know you might, you know, some of y'all, some of us might be coming to class for a couple of years before we get baptized, you know, and in passing, we may do a class on baptism, but we may not go too in depth on it. But the day of your marriage or the day you come into the covenant with God, we make sure we put all this out here so you can understand what it is you're doing. We make sure we read this covenant. You know, we'll point to the covenant, show you the commandments, how it ain't nothing going to change. You still got to keep those, you know. We explain to you what it is you're doing, that you marrying the Lord and stuff like that. And then what happens is you make that agreement when you go down in the water. That's a representation of Jesus' blood, as opposed to what they had back then. They had the blood of these animals. But still, we got the same covenant going on. It said, he took the book of the covenant, read in the audience of the people, and they said, all that the Lord hath said will we do and be obedient. Verse 8.
And Moses took the blood and sprinkled it on the people and said, behold, the blood of the covenant which the Lord have made with you concerning all these words.
So notice what he said. He said Moses took the blood and sprinkled it on the people and said, behold, the blood of the covenant which the Lord have made with you concerning all these words. So that's what he did. He took that, you had the people agreeing to doing what God said. And Moses took that blood and sprinkled it on the people. And this is where this animal sacrifice became a blood covenant. Well, this is where their blood was used as a blood covenant. And then it changed up, though. It's still not like, that was back then. Now that we have Jesus, we got a better covenant now. Go to Hebrews chapter 9. Hebrews chapter 9. Try not to flip it like that. That picks up in the mic. Hebrews chapter 9. Let's pick this up at start at verse 19. Go ahead.
For when Moses had spoken every precept to all the people according to the according to the law.
Now pay attention to what he said. He taking it back to what we just read, right? That's why he say, for when Moses had spoken every precept to all the people. That's what he was doing. He was back in the Old Testament reading that stuff to them. For when Moses had spoken every precept to all the people according to the law, what he did?
He took the blood of the calves and of goats with water and scarlet wool and hyssop and sprinkled both the book and all the people.
Right, notice what he did though, right? In another place we saw, over in Exodus 24, we saw he sprinkled the altar. But it said when he had spoken every precept, he took the blood of calves and goats with water and scarlet wool and hyssop and sprinkled both the book and the people. Saying what?
Saying, this is the blood of the testament which God have enjoined unto you.
Keep reading.
Moreover, he sprinkled with blood both the tabernacle and all the vessels of the ministry.
Right, so see what he did? He sprinkled both the tabernacle and all the vessels of the ministry. Keep reading.
And almost all things are by the law purged with blood. And without shedding of blood is no remission.
Right, so and that's what they had back then. Okay, that's what they had. It was signifying to giving you a sign of something better that was coming by way of Jesus. So what it say in verse 23, brother?
It was therefore necessary that the patterns of things in the heavens should be purified with these.
So listen, if they did it like that on the earth back then, well, if Jesus being a high priest and going before the Father, listen, it's necessary for this to be done also, right? But what did it say, though?
But the heavenly things themselves with better sacrifices than these.
Oh, okay, so that's going to take us out of the realm of that covenant that was done with those animals. You see? That's why he's saying here, but the heavenly things themselves with better sacrifices than these. Who was the one that gave us that better sacrifice? What is it saying in verse 24?
For Christ is not entered into the holy places made with hands.
Because, hey, he's your high priest now. He's your high priest. But also, guess what? He's also that lamb that was offered too. Because that's what the high priest did. The priest would enter into the most holy. Well, matter of fact, you had the priest go into the holy place on a daily basis. Then you had the high priest go behind the veil once a year. But pay attention to what he's saying. He said, for Christ is not entered into the holy places made with hands, not into the tabernacle that they reared up coming out of Egypt. That was something that they reared up with their hands physically. He's saying Jesus ain't entered into those holy places made with hands. But what else to say?
Which are the figures of the true.
Right, so which are the figures, or those were an example of the true, of what he was really going to do. Keep reading.
But into heaven itself.
Right, but he went into heaven itself, though. Like, he went up into heaven. Not into the, the physical place on this earth, like I said, when they came out of the wilderness, but he went into heaven itself to do what?
Now to appear in the presence of God for us.
So, hey, he's standing on our behalf now. He's our high priest. He's standing on our, he represents us. When you fall short, hey, he's your high priest. He's interceding for you, just like Moses interceded for the people. Go ahead and read what that say, brother.
Nor yet that he should offer himself often as the high priest entered into the holy place every year with blood of others.
So he ain't going to enter into the, to the tabernacle. What it say? Read that part again.
Read that scripture.
That last little part.
For then must he often have suffered since the foundation of the world.
No, that last little part you just read.
Nor yet that he should offer himself often as the high priest entered into the holy place every year with blood of others.
Right. So in other words, he not going to be going into the, to the tabernacle all the time. Like I said, you had the priest going in there on a daily basis. And then you had on atonement, they going behind the veil into the most holy place once a year. Hey, when Jesus comes, he ain't going to be doing all that. He going to do it once and for all. That's why I say, nor yet that he should offer himself often. He not going to be offering up himself, often like they was doing with these animals. As the high priest entered into the holy place every year and with the blood of others, because that's what the high priest did. They went into behind the veil once a year. Every year they was doing this with the blood for other people and themselves. But if Jesus had to do that, what would it say? What it say in verse 26?
For then must he often have suffered since the foundation of the world.
Right, they would have been killing him since Adam died. I mean, since Adam sinned, hey, we would have been killing Jesus, raising him up, killing him again, raising him up, killing him again. But he's not going to do that. That's why I say, for then must he often have suffered since the foundation of the world. But what did it say, brother?
But now once in the end of the world have he appeared to put away sin by the sacrifice of himself.
Right. So listen, when he come, he's giving you an opportunity out of this way of death by dying on the cross himself. And that's what it means when he says, by now, once in the end of the world, because we at the end of the world, we're in the latter part of the last days now. It's almost over. But when Jesus came, listen, that take us into the end of it. We're on the slippery slope to this thing before this thing come crashing down. But this started it. It say, but now once in the end of the world hath he appeared to put away sin by the sacrifice of himself. So he ain't got to keep offering up these animals all the time, every year. Hey, we got Jesus, the high priest. He's a high priest now, and then we got a lamb, the ultimate lamb, which is going to remove what the priest was doing on the daily basis. He ain't got to keep coming down. He do it one time. What does it say in verse 27?
And as it is appointed unto men once to die, but after this the judgment.
That's right. So keep that in mind. He's saying as it is appointed unto men once to die, but after this the judgment. And as long as he died for your sin, but still we got to go through the process. In addition to the question that's online, Brother Robinson said he died for our sin. Why are we still in sin? Because, hey, it's like you done already committed an act, but you ain't going to escape the punishment. You understand? That's why I say in verse 27, and as it is appointed unto men once to die. See what Adam did when he sinned against God. Listen, the repercussions is already done. It's taken off already. We already covered with death now. You understand? We already got to see the repercussions of sin. It started with Adam. Adam died. And all of us afterwards, hey, we got it. Hey, death is here. So this is why you still, what come with death? Killing, disease, murders, adultery, fornication. That's sin. All that stuff come with death. You know who's behind death? God is. But when you look at Satan, listen, that ties to him. That's why the Lord told Adam in the garden, you can eat from the tree of life and eat and live forever. But if you eat from the tree that's in the midst of the garden, you shall surely die. You see? But the Bible called him the tree of knowledge, of good and evil. But that's what comes with Satan. All these different things, disease, sickness, all this stuff comes with Satan. And right now, hey, we got to go through the process. God said it was going to happen, and hey, it's happening. But it's getting ready to end. This is when the Lord going to take all this away, though. What he said in verse 28?
So Christ was once offered to bear the sins of many.
Keep reading.
And unto them that look for him shall he appear the second time without sin unto salvation.
Oh, so notice what he going to do when he come back. It says what? He going to appear the second time without sin unto salvation. See, he came and died. That's a part of the process. You know, that started your process of getting back to everlasting life. Because now you got a way back to everlasting life. That's why it's such a problem for people that come into the Word, you know, and feel like all we need is the Old Testament. We don't need the New Testament. That's a problem. Because if you just need the Old Testament, you don't need the New Testament, then listen, you still stuck in your sin. Because you don't have no Savior. And you can't save yourself. The blood of bulls and goats could never take away sin. That's what it's going to say in Hebrews chapter 10. So therefore, guess what? You're going to need somebody to come and shed their blood for your sins. But listen, it didn't happen when he first came, though. He just came and died, okay, and started this process. When he get back, now he coming back with this everlasting life or this salvation that we're looking for. That's why he says here, so Christ was once offered to bear the sins of many. You ain't got to keep killing Jesus every year, year after year, year after year, just one time. So Christ was once offered to bear the sins of many, and unto them that look for him shall he appear the second time without sin unto salvation. So when he get back this time, listen, he bringing that salvation with him. And this is why we still falling up under death right now, because he ain't brought that salvation back. You see? So we're looking forward to that. All right, so now let's go. Anything on the phone line? Anything on the phone line? Y'all still can hear us, right?
Yes, we can still hear you.
Okay, cool. I'll set your water down on the floor. Let's see, I'll be looking at that. All right, so let's see here. What else we got? Cephas. Does Genesis 11 take place before the end of chapter 10? No, I think I know what you're talking about. Let me look at that before I say that. But I think I know what you're talking about. I think it flip-flops. It's almost like turning the station on you like Revelation. I think that's what it's doing. Genesis 11 take place before the end of chapter 10. I think it does. Not no, yeah. Almost certain what you're talking about. Whole earth was in one language, one speech. Came to pass their journey from the east. They found the plain in Shinar. Let's see here. They'll find some of their generations. Okay, make sure I understand your question. Does Genesis 11 take place before the end of chapter 10? It is explaining how the tongues got divided. 11 take place before the end of chapter 10. Let's see here. That's the question on the phone line. Does Genesis chapter 11 take place before the end of chapter 10? These are the families of Noah after their generations in their nations, and by these were the nations divided in the earth after the flood. And the whole earth was one language, one speech, and it came to pass they journeyed from the east that they found a plain. They said, when they go to, let's make brick. Allah came down to see the time, behold. You know what? This ain't what I was thinking about. But now let's go back to Genesis chapter 10, because I think you're making reference to them being divided, right? From Noah, after their generations, in their nations, and by these were the nations divided in the earth after the flood. So this is after the flood. I'm trying to understand your question, bruh. And the whole earth was of one language and one speech, and it came to pass they journeyed from the east, they found a plain land of Shinar. Nah, they had already divided them, bruh. Yeah, he divided them. And as a matter of fact, I think in Genesis chapter 9, he had already told them, Genesis 9 and verse 1, he had already told them to be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth, right? In verse 1. Verse 6, he says, whoso shed man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed, for in the image of God made he man. And you be ye fruitful and multiply, bring forth abundantly in the earth and multiply therein, right? All right, so he had already told them to be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. But if you pay attention, we talking about the earth, not just one particular landmass. All right, so he said, these are the generations after the sons unto them were sons born after the flood. So you're getting a genealogy right here, right? This is what you get. You're getting a genealogy. Then in 11, he breaks down something. He goes into Genesis chapter 11, and it makes reference to another chapter before it. I just can't remember what it is right now, but it makes me think that this was before chapter 10. You know, and that's how he'll do sometimes. He'll give you the he'll put out there certain things, then he'll go back and kind of break down something that was important. And I think that's what's going on right here. Genesis chapter 11, pick this up at verse 1. What does it say, brother?
And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. And it came to pass as they journeyed from the east that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said one to another, go to, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone and slime for mortar.
Yeah, they for mortar. Go ahead.
And they said, go to, let us build us a city and a tower whose top may reach unto heaven, and let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of men builded. And the Lord said, behold, the people is one, and they have all one language, and this they began to do, and now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do.
But remember, though, he told them now, he told them they're supposed to be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth, right? You see what I'm saying? And, so they were supposed to go ahead and do that anyway. But if you pay attention to what's happening, it's like they're trying to, get stuck in one particular area. All right? Go ahead and read. What else?
Go to, let us go down.
In this area that they went to, bruh, it was Shinar. But the Lord had already divided up if we look at 9, he had already divided up the land. He had already given them their certain spots, right, that they're supposed to go to. But there's like they coming to a congregating in one particular area, which is Shinar. This is where Babylon started at. All right? So it says what? The Lord said, behold, the people is one. They have all one language, and this they begin to do it now. Nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. Go to, let us go down, and there confound their language. What else?
That they may not understand one another's speech.
Keep reading.
So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city. Therefore is the name of it called Babel, because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth, and from thence did the Lord scatter them abroad upon the face of all the earth.
Okay, so it don't seem like the Lord would scatter them and then be like, okay, well, you take this Shem, you take that Ham, you take that Japheth. You see what I'm saying? Like, it seemed like he had it more organized. He had already told them, Be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth, and it's more likely they just, like I say, congregated to one particular area. And the Lord came down and scattered them. All right, so what else he say? So they go into the generations of Shem, Abraham. Yeah, so that's the best I can give you on that. But it was something that happened in Genesis, I think 11 or Genesis 10, that took place before. It's showing up in Genesis 9 or 10 or 11, one of those, but it actually happened ahead of time. But like I say, with the Lord, what he'll do is he'll give you, like for instance, we look at the genealogy, then he goes into what happened. Matter of fact, I think I know where it's at. You know what? Genesis chapter 10, right? It's going to give us the lineage of what took place with Nimrod. Then it's going to tell us what happened. Let's see here. I think that's what I'm looking for. Mine honor before the Lord, wherefore it is even. The beginning of his kingdom was called Babel, and Erech, and Akkad. So he had. Yeah, I can't figure out what I'm looking for. But anyway, let's go back online. Anything on the phone lines? Anything on the phone lines? So he said, I asked because it says in chapter 10 how the families were divided by their tongues. And you see the Tower of Babel and how he confounded the languages. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. But like I say, in Genesis 9, well, Genesis 10, where we at? In Genesis chapter 10, it tell you, that's a high probability, and I think that's what I was looking for. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Something on the internet? Let's see here. It's buffering. So Genesis chapter 10. Let's look at. Let's bring it up to verse 1. Genesis 10 to verse 1. Read that for me.
Now these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And unto them were sons born after the flood. The sons of Japheth, Gomer, and Magog, and Madai, and Javan, and Tubal, and Meshach, and Tyrus. And the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, and Rehath, and Togarmah. And the sons of Jabin, Elisha, and Tarshish, Kittim, and Dodanim. And these were the isles of the Gentiles, divided in their lands, everyone after his tongue, after their families, in their nations.
Right, so I think this is what I was referring to, Cephas. Brother said isles. So I think this is what I was referring to. If you look at Genesis chapter 10, right, like I say, it's going to go through the genealogy, and then for some reason in chapter 11, it seemed like he's going to expound on what happened in Babylon, or when Nimrod first came into power. Because if you look at Genesis chapter 10, verse 9, I think this is what I was thinking about. I think this is what I was saying when I was saying earlier. It was something that happened first, but he explained it after. So in other words, Babylon was talked about during the time of the, when he was separating the lands and stuff like that in Genesis chapter 10, the Table of Nations. And then in the chapter 11, he just goes further on to explain what happened. You see, he's going to explain what happened during the time of Nimrod kingdom. So Genesis chapter 10, pick it up at verse 10. Go ahead and read that for me.
And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel.
So we talking about Nimrod coming out of Ham. He said, in the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, which is what? Babylon. Go ahead and read.
And Erech, and Akkad, and Calneh, in the land of Shinar.
So, but also keep in mind, he is talking to Moses, though. You know, so he talking to Moses. He could just be, you know, identifying the landmass and stuff like that. But at the same time, you know, when I read it, it just seemed like he explained all this stuff as far as the Table of Nations is concerned. Then when you get to Genesis chapter 11, he explains what took place in Nimrod's kingdom. Because it said in the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, and what else? Erech, Akkad, and Calneh in the land of Shinar, which is Babylon. All right, so what else? Let's see here. These are the family of the sons after their generations. By these were the nations divided in the earth after the flood. But let's see what happened, how they end up getting divided, right? Then it goes into chapter 11. What does it say in verse 1?
And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. And it came to pass, as they journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said one to another, Go to, let us make brick, and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar.
Keep reading.
And they said, Go to, let us build us a city and a tower, whose top may reach onto heaven, and let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth.
Right, so it's like we going back to what happened during Nimrod's kingdom. Yeah, I'm talking about Genesis 10 to 10. Talking about Nimrod. Now we're in Genesis chapter 11. We went through the Table of Nations, and then like in Genesis chapter 11, it seemed like the Lord going to hound on what happened in Nimrod's kingdom. Because remember, Babel is the beginning of Nimrod's kingdom. So in other words, what you said, you know, I think that's what I had saw a while back, and I have to say from what I'm looking at, you know, I'm gonna have to say that's what happened, brother. Yeah, so that's a good catch. So it just seemed like he went back and explained what took place in Genesis chapter 10 and verse 10, like how they end up splitting up. Like for instance, if you look at Genesis 10 and verse 10 and stop right there. In the beginning of his kingdom, talking about Nimrod, in the beginning of his kingdom was Babel and Erech and Akkad and Calneh in the land of Shinar, right? And then you go to Genesis chapter 11, and then still talking about Nimrod. You okay?
Oh, yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Still talking about Nimrod, and the whole earth was in one language and one speech. And it came to pass as they journeyed from the east that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. But, you know, this is where Nimrod was at. And then, but this is where everybody came to, and the Lord came down and, you know, confused the language. And this is where Babylon started at. So I have to say, yeah, brother. All right, so let's see here. Let's go to... All right, so now let's go look at one more here. Was Solomon's temple doing the Psalm 138 too? I don't think so. Nope. All right, so hold on, Cephas. You're trying to bust all these questions at one time. All right, let's go to 1 Timothy chapter 2. That's a slick move, though, but I feel you. 1 Timothy chapter 2, unless you're just trying to get it all on there at one time. 1 Timothy chapter 2, Sister Sterling or Elizabeth asked, what does shamefaced mean? I've been told it means no makeup or earrings or braided hair. No, it's just talking about, you know, being humble, that's all. Just being humble. 1 Timothy chapter 2, and we're going to pick this up at start at verse 8 for me.
I will therefore that men pray everywhere, lifting up holy hands without wrath and doubting. In like manner also that women adorn themselves in modest apparel, with shamefacedness and sobriety, not with braided hair or gold or pearls or costly array.
Okay, so in other words, see, right, what did he say before that, sister? We're just talking about how you should adorn yourself. Let's see here. We're going to look at 1 Peter chapter 3 and verse 3 and 5 after this. And let me see something else. Okay. All right. So after we finish this, we're going to go to 1 Peter 3 just to kind of piggyback. All right, so finish reading that. We're going to explain this right quick. So the question online for those on the phone line, it is in 1 Timothy 2:9, what does shamefaced mean? I've been told it means no makeup or earrings or braided hair. So let's look at it and see. Let's read that 1 Peter 2 again. 1 Timothy 2 again. What'd that say, brother? 1 Timothy 2 and 9. Go and read. We'll start at verse 8. 8 again.
I will therefore that men pray everywhere, lifting up holy hands without wrath and doubting.
Keep reading.
In like manner also that women adorn themselves in modest apparel.
Okay, now pay attention to what he say. He says, in like manner also that women adorn themselves in modest apparel. So you want to do that now. You know, you don't want to come up in the church with, body parts showing and stuff like that. You want to have, you don't want your backside all, the tight pants and stuff and backside showing and stuff like that. You want to be in modest apparel, because you still represent God. Just keep that in mind. So he's saying like manner also, or just have something to cover your body up. In like manner also that women adorn themselves in modest apparel with what?
With shamefacedness and sobriety.
So like, inwardly, you have some shamefacedness, because if you humble in heart, you sober in heart, you're going to be, your outward appearance going to show that. Whatever takes place on the outside, it comes from the inside. That's why the Lord was saying things about it's not what enter into a man that defile, but it's what comes out of a man that defile him. Because them things I got into the heart. So in this case right here, listen, if your outward appearance is looking a certain way, more than likely, hey, it done already creeped into your heart, whether it be good or bad. If you dressing in a humble manner and stuff like that, it's a high probability that you've already taken on that mentally, that shamefacing, that respect for the order of God and stuff like that. But he going to go a little bit further, though. He going to go a little further, and he going to take it out of this physical realm. What did he say?
Not with braided hair or gold.
So it ain't about your hair now. He say, listen. He say, adorn yourselves in modest apparel with shamefacedness and sobriety, not with braided hair or broidered hair, or what else?
Or gold.
So not with the jewelry and stuff like that. Not to say that that's a sin. Just don't let that be your main concern. We need to worry about something else. He said, not with braided hair, broidered hair, or gold or pearls, or what else?
Or costly array.
Right, the top dollar clothing. Don't be so focused on that. But what?
But which becometh women professing godliness.
Right, because if you end up, you dress like that, and you look at now today, that's what society tends to look at to make it seem as if you're close to God and you got some connection with God based on your outfit. Some of the nice clothes you wear. God is showing up blessing you. We know you walking up right. That don't mean nothing, though. He said, not with costly array, but with good works. That's what you want to be covered in some good works. Right? That's how you want to decorate yourself. Go look at 1 Peter chapter 3. 1 Peter chapter 3 to the right. 1 Peter chapter 3. We're going to start this at verse 1. 1 Peter 3 and verse 1. Right before the book of John. 1 Peter 3 and verse 1. Go and read that, please.
Likewise, ye wives, be in subjection to your own husbands.
That's right. He say, likewise, ye wives, be in subjection to your own husband, not your preacher, your husband. Go ahead.
That if any obey not the word, they also may without the word be won by the conversation of the wives.
Right, now pay attention to this though, right? He say, likewise, ye wives, be in subjection to your own husbands, that if any obey not the word, they also may, without the word, be won by the conversation of the wives. That's just think about it. If you got a sister that's dealing with the word, right? She got a husband that don't believe. You know, one of the ways you can win him over is by your conversation, or by your, your demeanor, your attitude. You know, how you deal with him is what can convince him to start serving your God. That's why I say, likewise, ye wives, be in subjection to your own husband. You shouldn't be running up in the church to try to get all in the preacher's face. You need to be in subjection to your own husband, that if any obey not the word, talking about your husband, if he don't obey the word, they also may without the word, talking about your husband, him without the word may be won by the conversation of the wives. Your behavior is what's going to end up winning this man or getting him to serve God. What he's saying, verse 2, brother?
While they behold your chaste conversation.
While they behold your chaste and your clean conversation, your attitude is good, your behavior is good, you know, your apparel is good, you ain't out here like a harlot. You know what I'm saying? You ain't the loud one all over the place, right? He says, while they behold your chaste conversation coupled with fear. They see that, your chaste conversation, what? Your fear of what? Your fear of God. Because, see, that's going to cause you to behave in a different manner. As opposed to some women you see out here that ain't got no self-control. But when you start getting into the book, you start seeing how you're supposed to carry yourself. And it covers everybody across the board. But what is saying, verse 3, brother?
Whose adorning, let it not be that outward adorning.
Now pay attention, because Paul was saying the same thing, right? He said, who's adorning or you're decorating, you know, as far as you are concerned, you like nice clothes, you like nice rings and jewelry and stuff like that. Hey, ain't nothing wrong with that, because some people like to say it's a sin for you to wear makeup. Listen, Maybelline does make people look better. Women in this case. So ain't nothing wrong with you putting that on, but don't let that be the focus. What needs to be the focus is what? Like he say here, who's adorning, let it not be that outward adorning. What else?
Of plaiting the hair.
Of plaiting the hair. Ain't, like I say, ain't nothing wrong with you going to plait your hair, getting something done to your hair, because listen, some of y'all would be busted if you ain't do something to yourself. But what he's saying is we need to have more emphasis on what's going on inside this mind. That's what he's saying. Who's adorning, let it not be that outward adorning, the plaiting the hair, and the what else?
Wearing of gold.
Keep reading.
Or the putting on of apparel.
Go ahead.
But let it be the hidden man of the heart.
Right, because see, you know, you wearing gold and nice clothes and stuff like that, people can see that outwardly. Yeah. You see? He said, don't let it be that, though. He said, but let it be the hidden man of the heart. See, people can't see what's in your mind, though, right? Only you can see. God know what's in your mind. You know, and even the Lord tell you the heart is the heart is desperately wicked. Jeremiah 17:5. Who can know it? You think you know yourself. You don't know yourself. God know it, though. He said, but let it be the hidden man of the heart, and that which is not corruptible. Even what?
Even the ornament of the meek and quiet spirit.
So this is what you need to put on. But he's not saying this is a sin for you to wear gold. He's not saying this is a sin for you to put on makeup and lipstick. He's not saying this is a sin for you to wear earrings. He's not saying that. What he's saying is you need to have more emphasis or more focus on you adorning this heart of yours, this mind of yours. And how you going to do that? With a meek and quiet spirit. That's why I say even the ornament of a meek and quiet spirit, which is what?
Which is in the sight of God of great price.
Right, because that's what it's all about, though. It's all about pleasing God. You trying to make him happy. So you want to do what you can to, please him. And then essentially what's going to happen is you're going to end up winning your husband over. So that's what that's saying, sister. I know, a lot of people say that, like Geno Jennings, he say that type of stuff, but he off. Ain't nothing wrong with you putting some makeup on. Ain't nothing wrong with you putting some jewelry on and stuff like that. You just want to make sure your focus is about, your focus is on you serving God. I like to give an example of somebody, in my mind, when she died. Let's go look at it. It's in the book of Acts. When she died, they had a good report about the sister. Acts chapter 9. And this is what you want to kind of cover yourself in. Like, some people, they may be known for driving nice cars and having nice clothes and stuff like that. But how are they when it comes to treating people? How are they when they come to, respecting their husband and taking care of their family, taking care of their household, and treating the poor and stuff like that, people who are less fortunate? How are they? Let's look at this lady in Acts chapter 9, who had died, and they went to go get Peter. Acts chapter 9, pick this up at verse 32. What did that say, brother?
And it came to pass, as Peter passed throughout all quarters, he came down also to the saints which dwelt
At Lydda.
Uh-huh. And there he found a certain man named Ananias, which had kept his bed 8 years, and was sick of the palsy. And Peter said unto him, Ananias, Jesus Christ maketh thee whole, arise and make thy bed. And he arose immediately.
So we see Peter healing some people back then. That's what the book of Acts is all about. If you don't understand the book of Acts, it's called the Acts of the Apostles, because after Jesus left, hey, they were still doing miracles and stuff like that. His disciples were. You see? So that's why it's ACTS. We talking about the Acts of the Apostles. So this is one of them, right? So read verse 36. What does it say, brother?
Now there was at Joppa a certain disciple named Tabitha.
So we had some female disciples. Ain't nothing wrong with that. They just ain't got no business being in this order as far as preaching this gospel, standing up and leading no church. That's out of order for a woman. But it said, now there was at Joppa a certain disciple named Tabitha, which what?
Which by interpretation is called Dorcas.
So her name was interpreted, but it was called Dorcas. What did it say?
This woman was full of good works and alms deeds, which she did.
Right, but notice what it say, though. It say this woman was full of good works and alms deed, which she did. But notice, just pay attention now. This lady Tabitha in the Bible, and she's known for good works and alms deeds. You see? And that's what you want to, cover yourself with good works. That's why even Paul said it. Go back to, hold your finger here, and we're going to come back. Go back to 1 Timothy chapter 2. 1 Timothy chapter 2, and pick it up at verse 9, because this is what this lady did. She had covered herself in good works. So this is mainly what it's saying here, sister. It ain't saying you can't, like I say, you can wear some makeup. Ain't nothing wrong with you looking nice. Everybody like to, do something with themselves, look nice. Ain't nothing wrong with that, but we got to make sure our focus is on what's inside, which is in the sight of God with great price. 1 Timothy 2:9, he said, like manner also that women adorn themselves in modest apparel with what?
With shamefacedness.
Right, so we just talking about you got to have some humbleness. Keep reading.
And sobriety.
Because when you're drunk, you all over the place. We got to have some stability. You being a sister, have some stability. Can't be all over the place. Not what?
Not with braided hair.
Right, talking about adorning yourself, not with braided hair. Go ahead.
Or gold or pearls.
So not no gold or pearls. Keep reading.
Or costly array.
Right, because we know there's some nice and high-priced stuff out there that you can buy, but listen, that ain't what it's about. Because when it's all said and done, listen, this man is going to die. And you ain't going to be able to take none of that apparel. You ain't going to be able to take none of them cars with you to the grave. But you better believe, as much as you die and going to the grave, you're getting up from that grave. So you want to make sure you cover yourself with this. What he say in verse 10, brother?
But which becometh women professing godliness with good works.
Right, so he said not with gold or costly pearls or costly array, but on the outside of those parentheses, he say, but with good works. That's all you're going to do. This is what you want to cover yourself with some good works. So now, let's go back over to... Excuse me, brother. Let's go back to over to that back to Dorcas. Go on, pick it back up. It says she was full of good works at the end of 36. This woman was full of good works and alms deeds which she did. Keep reading.
And it came to pass in those days that she was sick and died, whom when they had washed, they laid her in an upper chamber.
But she ended up dying. Peter came in there and got her up and stuff like that. But she came there. They were showing all the different stuff she had made. But at the same time, listen, she was full of good works and alms deed. And this is how you want to look, you know. This is why Paul was saying good works. You know, this is what you want to do. You want to make sure you're looking like that, as opposed to focusing so much on the outside. That don't mean just throw yourself away. You know, don't do that now. Because, hey, you look at the Lord and what he did to his church, Israel. Hey, he decked them with gold, earrings, nose rings, and everything. He made Israel look pretty. That's why you see some of us today, we like to wear gold as a nation of people. I look at some of these rappers. I look at most of all the rappers, man. Goodness gracious. Being Hebrews, Israelites, most of all of them got gold on. Or some type of jewelry, covered in jewelry. They don't even know where that come from. But, hey, Jesus put that on us as a nation of people. So we like that type of stuff anyway. So ain't nothing wrong with that. But listen, it's about you making sure that the inward man is being... that you're paying more attention to that inward man more than anything.
Everyone else is now unmuted.
Oh, no, you good, Cleveland Robinson. It's okay. Oh, nah. I mean, yeah, you can't call your brother to stumble. I mean, how would you do that, Sister Sterling? What do you mean by that? Anything online, on the phone line?
Oh, yeah. Hello?
Hey, Brother John, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How you doing?
Brother John from New York City. I mean, upstate New York, eh?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good.
Now I can barely hear you. I can barely hear you.
Okay, hold on just a minute. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you good.
Okay. Yeah, yesterday, I was walking down the street and I stumbled, come across this church, storefront church. The guy he was starting the church and he was setting it all up. So while he was doing some work, and I was talking with him and and so he was asking me, you know, what he told me to come in. If I ain't doing nothing Sunday, come and visit him. I said, no, I don't go to church on Sunday because I said I'm a Sabbath keeper. I said I just don't. He tried to say, well, ain't nothing wrong with going to church on Sunday. You know, he said, God understand. He said, well, we keep the Sabbath. We just do it on Sunday. And he told me, he said, well, you got to serve God every day. You know, not just. He said God didn't put just one day, ahead of the other one. He made them all the same. So I guess, you know, when he said that, we had to, I brought out everything I know to put on it. Every scripture I know.
Wow.
So, you know, so he said, well, yeah, I see you. He said, well, he told me, well, I see you, you know, well, yeah, you're making your point. He said, you can serve God any day. I said, well, you got to keep that Sabbath. Regardless of what you do, you got to keep the Sabbath, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's key. That's definitely key. What the brother was saying online, he was saying that he ran into a pastor yesterday. He said he stumbled upon a pastor walking home, about to open up a church, and he invited the pastor invited him to come to church on Sunday, and he was telling him, well, he don't worship on Sunday. Well, he don't go to church on Sunday. And the preacher was saying that, you know, we can worship any day. But, you know, you think about that, you can't worship any day. You know, you want to worship God on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Ain't nothing wrong with that. But it's only one day that the Lord commanded you to rest and have a holy convocation. You know, he didn't, you know, and that's what a lot of people misunderstand, you know, as far as keeping the Sabbath and stuff like that. The Sabbath it's a day of rest, but it's the seventh day that the Lord anointed as holy. He didn't anoint every day of the week, you know. So what end up happening, you know, we end up trying to, you know, justify a lie by saying that any day can be the Sabbath. I mean, even Jake said that, and that ain't the case. Any day can't be the Sabbath. You know, it's one day. Yeah, I got you. Yeah. Well, yeah, good talking to you, man. You been okay?
Stop doing your work. But I said you're supposed to have service, a holy convocation on the Sabbath.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's supposed to have holy
But
convocation.
I tell you, I left something with him. He got to be thinking about what I tell him. See, I find out a lot of times people, sometimes they try to disagree with it, but then when you leave them, then they be getting to thinking about what you tell them. You know what I mean?
That's that example that the Lord gave. One man plant. Paul gave one man plant, another man water, but it's God that get an increase. So, you planted a seed.
Right.
Yeah, you planted that seed, and hopefully, he think about it.
Hope he catch on with it.
Right.
How you been doing, man?
Oh man, been doing pretty good, man. Been doing pretty good. Mm-hmm. Thanks for asking.
One more thing I want to say to you, I'm gonna let it go. But my biggest thing, I want to give me a scripture about fasting.
Mm-hmm.
Some encouragement because I'm gonna tell you the truth. I try to fast, but God, man, every time I try to do some of this shit, man, the burgers be.
You say the birds be calling you?
Yeah, them burgers, them Golden Corral be calling me. Man, I said, Lord, that's it gets me because I see other people and they say, oh, I fasted, and they be saying they fast, and I be wanting to do that. I be saying, God, I said, man, but I said, Lord, I don't know. Maybe you give me a scripture to help me or something.
Yeah. Let's go look at that. Let's go look at that. I mean, honestly, man, I don't fast too much. I'll be the first one to tell you that I need your help with that, boy. But I need to work on that. I really do. It's just a matter of how bad you want your prayers answered, how bad how bad you need it. You know what I'm saying? But that's something I'm struggling with. But yeah, I'm gonna start doing it though. I'm gonna definitely start doing it because I got to.
I pray a lot.
Uh-huh.
I pray a lot, but I know they said too. I was supposed to say you got not only pray, you got to put fasting along with it.
Well, it depends on the situation. Like we commanded to fast once in a year. That's on the Day of Atonement. But fasting is also, fasting, man. You look at some of the great people in the Bible, especially Jesus. Hey, he fasted 40 days and 40 nights. Moses did too. But you look at Jesus though, when he fasted, went into the wilderness 40 days and 40 nights, he came out with power. I mean, he came out with some power, man, for real. So let's go look at something right quick. Let's go to Matthew chapter 6. Give me 1 second.
This is not a valid menu option. Everyone else is now muted.
All right, Matthew chapter 6. And we're gonna look at and just giving you steps on how to pray. He's gonna start off with the Lord's Prayer. And then he's going to go a little bit further. Matthew chapter 6, pick this up at verse 16. What does it say, brother?
Moreover, when ye fast, be not as the hypocrites of a sad countenance, for they disfigure their faces, that they may appear unto men to fast. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward.
Right, so if you're going to fast and pray, you know what I'm saying, you don't need to wear it on your sleeve. You know, and if you don't know what fasting is, listen, you're afflicting your soul for the time period that you possibly set aside, but it ain't going to be, no food, no water. And there's no such thing as a Daniel fast. There's no such thing as a water fast. A fast by God is no food and no water. No liquid, no bread. None of that. All right? And the most I did it was 2 days. I almost died the second day. I felt like, oh my God, that was the worst feeling in the world. I did it one day, I was fine. I said, I'm going to do it another day. And I did it the next day. Oh, man. Man, my fast couldn't have been over with. And I think when I did it back then, I ain't did it besides fasting on atonement. I hadn't did it since then because that was tough for me. 2 days. But I know some brothers that went 7 days, 9 days, but it's all about your faith, man. Afflicting this soul, taking from this body what you used to. But when you do that, he said, what? Moreover, when ye fast, be not as the hypocrites of a sad countenance, for they disfigure their faces, that they may appear unto men to fast. It's like you walking around with a particular look on your face, moping or, acting sad and stuff like that, so some people can feel pity for you. Or you can just announce to everybody that you fasting. But he say, verily I say unto you, they have their reward. What he say in verse 17?
But thou, when thou fastest, anoint thine head and wash thy face.
So he say, but when you fast, anoint thy head and wash your face. You're going to put some oil on. Hey, just wash your face. Don't walk around with a face full of olive oil, you know what I'm saying, so people can see that you in prayer mode. You know what I'm saying? People do that for outward appearances. When you fast, anoint your head and wash your face. Get that stuff off your face. Go ahead and read. What else?
That thou appear not unto men to fast.
Right, because it ain't about pleasing them. He said that thou not appear unto men to fast, but what?
But unto thy Father which is in secret. And thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly.
Right, so hey, he see it in secret. He know you praying and fasting. That's the only person that you need to be concerned about anyway, because you trying to seek something from him. But he gonna reward you openly, right? But let's go look at something right quick. See how Jesus was fasting, how intense it was. Go to Psalms chapter 109. We're going to pick it up at verse 24. Let's see here. Psalms 109, verse 24. And, okay, let's see here. Oh, okay, Sister Sterling. Yeah, just don't overdo it, though. You know what I'm saying? Like I say, ain't nothing wrong with you making yourself up, but, just don't overdo it. Don't do something to the point where you're going to cause somebody to feel a certain type of way about your attire. But essentially, when it's all said and done, if somebody falls into temptation, it's because they want to. I'll tell you that in James chapter 1. But, yeah, just be mindful, that's all. But ain't nothing wrong with you doing it yourself. But let's see here. Psalm chapter 109. Psalms 109. Pick this up at verse 22. What does it say, brother? Psalm 109, verse 22.
For I am poor and needy, and my heart is wounded within me. I am going like the shadow when it declineth.
Keep reading.
I am tossed up and down as the locust. My knees are weak through fasting.
Notice what he say. He say, my knees are weak through fasting. But we looking in the Old Testament, where most people don't understand that, hey, the Old Testament is Jesus doing the talking through the mouth of the prophets. Like David wrote the book of Psalms, but Jesus speaking through the mouth of David. So he's saying, my knees are weak through fasting, telling you how it's going to be when he come in the future, right? Because that's what happened. He fasted 40 days and 40 nights. But hey, he went through something. It wasn't easy. That's why I tell you that after Satan left, the angels came to minister unto him. He said, my knees are weak through fasting. So listen, it ain't supposed to be a pretty thing when you fast, Brother John. It's gonna be tough. Some people can do it one day and it's not a problem. But after one day, when all your gimmicks and schemes done wore off, because doing atonement, we may know how to do some things to kind of get us through that day. We'll do it the day before, the night before, like drink a lot of water. So when atonement get here, we don't be so thirsty. But what about when you get to the second and third day and the fourth day? You know what I'm saying? You're going to start feeling it. He said, my knees are weak through fasting. And what else?
And my flesh faileth for fatness.
And my flesh fail of fatness. He losing weight. But that's what that fasting to have you doing. But that's Jesus talking. So it's not supposed to be easy. But listen, though, it's necessary, though. It's definitely necessary. It can be useful, when you're trying to get the Lord's attention. Go look at Mark chapter 9. Mark chapter 9. And then we're going to answer one more question online. And then we're going to close out. Mark chapter 9. We're going to pick this up at, start this at Mark chapter 9. Pick this up at verse 13. Okay, start at 17. Mark chapter 9, verse 17. What did they say, brother?
And one of the multitude answered and said, Master, I have brought unto thee my son, which have a dumb spirit, and wheresoever he taketh him, he teareth him, and he foameth and gnasheth with his teeth, and pineth away. And I spake to thy disciples that they should cast him out, and they could not. He answered them and said, O faithless generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I suffer you? Bring him unto me. And they brought him unto him. And when he saw him, straightway the spirit tear him, and he fell on the ground and wallowed foaming. And he asked his father, how long is it ago since this came onto him?
All right, so this man brought his son, came to Jesus asking him to help his son. Because he got these spirits on him, man. This kind of, it's doing him bad. That's why he say here, verse 18, wheresoever he take him, he teareth him, and he foam and gnash with his teeth and pine away. But he got a dumb spirit on him, right? In other words, he possessed. They done took control of this young man. And he says in 18, I spake to thy disciples that they should cast him out. They could not. So, listen, they was walking with Jesus. They his disciples. But when it came to this particular incident, they couldn't get the spirit off this brother. Read 20 again.
And they brought him unto him, and when he saw him straightway, the spirit tear him, and he fell on the ground and wallowed foaming. And he asked his father, how long is it ago since this came onto him? And he said, of a child. And oft times it have cast him into the fire and into the waters to destroy him.
Go ahead.
But if thou canst do
So he asked him how long this been going on first off. He said this been going on since he been a child. And it's so bad that every now and then, or oftentimes, it'll cast him into the fire and into the waters to destroy him. But if what?
But if thou canst do anything, have compassion on us and help us.
Go ahead.
Jesus said unto him, if thou canst believe, all things are possible to him that believe.
So you got to have some faith.
And straightway
Jesus said to him, if thou can believe, all things are possible to him that believes. So you got to have some faith. Another place, the brother said to the Lord, he said, Lord, help thou my unbelief. So that's what some of us need to be praying for. When we have different things, you know, it's because it's hard. You know, it's hard to believe in something you ain't never seen. You know, so you got to pray and ask God. I mean, this brother here, he saw Jesus. And he even said, like I said, another place, he said, Lord, help thou my unbelief. But just imagine if you ain't never seen God, we just dealing with the Bible and the stories and things, records or events of what took place. But we don't have, you know, we can't actually reach out and see Jesus in front of us. Well, hey, we got to rely on our faith. And sometimes doubt gets in the way. But even Jesus telling him, he say what? If thou can believe, all things are possible to him that believe. Go on and read.
And straightway the father of the child cried out and said with tears, Lord, I believe. Help thou mine unbelief.
Yeah, that's it right there. We say what? Lord, I believe. Help me with my unbelief, with my doubt, and help me with this. So listen, don't be afraid to ask God to help you in areas where you doubting. People say you're supposed to doubt God. Listen, that come with man. You ask God to help you to believe, increase your faith. That's what it's all about, increasing your faith. Go on and read what it says in 25.
When Jesus saw that the people came running together, he rebuked the foul spirit, saying unto him, Thou dumb and deaf spirit, I charge thee, come out of him and enter no more into him.
Now remember Jesus, he done fast 40 days and 40 nights. He come out the wilderness, he doing miracles all over the place, right? But this is what he's saying to that dumb and deaf spirit who his disciples had already encountered and they couldn't do nothing. What he saying in verse 26, brother?
And the spirit cried and rent him sore and came out of him. And he was as one dead, insomuch that many said, He is dead.
Keep reading.
But Jesus took him by the hand and lifted him up, and he arose. And when he was come into the house, the disciples asked him privately, Why could not we cast him out?
Right, so the disciples, they want to know, how is it that, you able to do this, but why couldn't we cast him out? What did he say, brother?
And he said unto them, This kind come forth by nothing but by prayer and fasting.
Oh, so notice what type of power would come with prayer and fasting. See, it's more than just, praying all the time by itself. Sometimes you're going to have to, like they would say when I was coming up in the church, you're going to have to burn some midnight oil. So in this case right here, burning this midnight oil, hey, what I mean by that is sometimes you're going to have to, and I ain't talking about getting on your knees and calling Jesus. I ain't talking about that. I'm talking about you're going to have to afflict your soul. But this is what Jesus told him. Listen, this kind only come out. This kind can come forth by nothing but by prayer and fasting. So you're going to have to put these two together. So that works good across the board for all of us when we're in situations and just seem like we ain't getting no answers or things ain't changing. Hey, we might have to do some prayer and fasting. And I know me specifically, I need to do some prayer and fasting. I just say I need help with my unbelief. That's just the easiest way I can put it. But let's go back.
Everyone else is now unmuted.
All right, so Brother John, hope that help you out on that. We gonna go to the last question online. You still there, Brother John? Shit, I'm muted, right? Y'all still on the phone line?
I'm still here.
Oh, okay, cool. As long as you there, I know the phone line is still working then. Where your partner at? Where's Sister Robin at?
I didn't hear her last week. Well, did she ask? I don't know. She may have asked a question last week.
Oh, okay, because I know you and her.
It's normally myself, Sister Jeannie, and Sister Robin.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't even hear Sister Jeannie unless she's on the phone not saying anything.
Oh, okay. Well, at least you hold it down for the fort then. That's what's up. All right, so we're going to do one more question online. I see a few comments, Brother Robinson. If you will, Brother Robinson, you can You can look through our archives on the videos, and we explain mainly what you highlighting regarding in your comments. But for the sake of time, I have to refer you to that, or you can leave a message on one of our on this Bible study, and I'll come back and get in contact with you, and we'll go over some stuff. But let's see here. Why is it out of order for a woman to lead a church? I'm here to learn, not troll. I'm sorry. No need to be sorry. As long as you're trying to learn in all sincerity, it's no problem. But listen, God set an order up. In order that the Lord set up, hey, man is the head, and woman's not the head. So that would be out of order for a woman to be leading the congregation. Not to say that she don't have different positions as far as being able to teach children, teach other sisters and bring them up, in the sincerity and fear of the Lord. Ain't nothing wrong with that. But as far as like leading this congregation, hey, she ain't supposed to be usurping that authority over the man in that at all like that. So 1 Timothy 2 and 12, let's see that right quick. 1 Timothy 2 and 12. No, you tired, ain't you? Boy, your eyes getting red. Huh? You got to work in the morning?
Fasting up here, man.
Oh, yes? Oh, you doing a good job. I'm not wearing it on the sleeve.
No, I need to eat something.
Oh, it's over with?
No.
The fast over?
No, I ain't ate nothing.
Oh, for real?
No, yeah, since I got off work.
Oh, man, you don't do that, man. Oh, man. 1 Timothy chapter 2.
Yeah.
Let's pick this up at verse 12. I was wondering why you were all shamefaced over there. What is it in verse 11?
But I suffer not a woman to teach, nor to usurp authority over the man.
Now pay attention to what he said. This is Paul talking, right? He said, but I suffer not a woman to teach, nor to usurp authority over the man, but what?
But to be in silence.
Keep reading.
For Adam was first formed, then Eve.
Right, but we see an order right here, right? He said, for Adam was first formed, then Eve. Keep reading.
And Adam was not deceived, but the woman being deceived was in the transgression.
Right, so hey, listen, we got this woman, she gonna have some protection over her head, and we got an order set up now, and because of her falling, she gonna need some protection over her head. But he said, what I suffer not a woman to teach, nor to usurp authority over a man. We talking about how these churches are being set up, what Paul is instituting, but it's only good. That's why even in the churches we deal with, listen, we allow women to speak, but you ain't getting up here teaching no class. It's not going to happen because that's out of order. He said, but I suffer not a woman to teach, nor to usurp authority over the man, but to be in silence, for Adam was first formed, then Eve, and Adam was not deceived. When it came to Satan and deception and stuff like that, listen, Adam wasn't deceived. He knowingly, he went against God, he disobeyed, and he knew what he was doing. But he said, but the woman being deceived was in the transgression. Go into 1 Corinthians chapter 11. 1 Corinthians chapter 11. Man, this time is going fast. 1 Corinthians chapter 11. I'm going to pick this up at verse 1. 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 1. What does it say, brother?
Be ye followers of me, even as I also am of Christ. Now I praise you, brethren, that ye remember me in all things, and keep the ordinances as I delivered them to you. But I would have you know that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Christ is God.
But pay attention to the order, though, right? He said, what I would have you know that the head of every man is Christ. So even man got a head, right? Then he said, excuse me, and the head of the woman is the man. So the woman, she's not the only one that has some type of covering. Even the man has a covering himself. And then what he said at the end of that.
But every woman that, every man praying or
End of verse 3. And the head.
And the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Christ is God.
Right, so everybody got an order. Everybody got somebody to answer to in this order here, right? Showing you something. It said, but I have you know that the head of man is Christ. Just think about man teaching Jesus. How that work? How does that look? Like he's our head. So what am I going to teach him? Not to say that a woman can't show me some things, but I'm not going to sit up here and be, ministering to God, trying to tell him how to operate things when he's my head. You get what I'm saying? Like he going to show me what I need to do. You see? And then not only that, hey, even Jesus tell you himself, that he was, that the Father was showing him some things in the Old Testament. So he said, but I will have you know that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of the woman is the man. What else?
And the head of Christ is God.
Right, so we got some order there. Skip down to verse 9 and read that for me. Go ahead.
Neither was the man created for the woman, but the woman for the man.
Keep reading.
For this cause ought the woman to have power on her head because of the angels.
So notice what he say. He say the man wasn't created for the woman. Now you go back to Genesis, you'll see that, the man went to sleep, and the woman came out of the man. That's why she's the glory of the man. Man was made in the image of God. Not the woman. The man was. And then it tell you that the woman, she came out of the man. She is the glory of the man. Early in this chapter. Go back and read it. Say, neither was the man created for the woman, but the woman for the man. Remember Adam, the animals wasn't good enough for him. So the Lord say, I'm going to put him to sleep and make him a helpmeet. But hey, don't forget now, we saw in 1 Timothy chapter 2 that the woman dropped the ball, right? She dropped the ball. She got the seed. So what got to happen? What is saying verse 10, brother? Read that for me.
For this cause ought the woman to have power on her head because of the angels.
Okay, so because she got deceived, she needs some power over her head because of the angels. In other words, she gonna need some protection, in other words. You know what I'm saying? Like for instance, Satan come. Satan come, he tried to talk to the woman because that's what happened in the garden. The fallen angel, which is just that old serpent called the devil and Satan, he talked to Eve in the garden and deceived her. The Bible tell you he was more subtle than any beast of the field. But he came and talked to her, deceived her. So because of that, now we got an order set up. That's why I tell you in Genesis chapter 3, he said, your desire, talking to Eve, he said your desire going to be to your husband, and he going to rule over you. He shall rule over thee. So evidently, we wouldn't have to worry about that if Eve didn't get the seed. But this is what Paul is taking you back to when he say, for this cause ought the woman ought the woman to have power on her head because of the angels. So when a sister cover her head, when she praying and prophesying with a scarf or a hat, Satan, the angels see that. They know you understand the order. They know you understand the process of things, and they'll be more, hesitant to come to you and try to mess with you because you understand the order. They know you got a head. But that's what he say, right? He say, for this cause ought the woman to have power on her head because of the angels. All right? So now you got an order here. But hey, that order has to stay consistent. You can't be teaching over this man. Let's go back to and this gonna be it on this. I think it was 1 Peter. I think it was. Okay, 1 Corinthians chapter 14. Yeah, there we go. 1 Corinthians chapter 14. 1 Corinthians 14. We're going to pick this up at verse 34. We'll start at 33. 1 Corinthians 14, verse 33. What does it say, brother?
For God is not the author of confusion.
Okay, so understand that. He say, for God is not the author of confusion, right? Okay, so just make sure we understand that. He said, God is not the author of confusion. Keep reading.
But of peace, as in all churches of the saints.
But he's the author of peace, not confusion now, but of peace, as in all churches of the saints. What he say in verse 34?
Let your woman keep silence in the churches.
Oh, so notice what he say. He say, let your women keep silence in the churches. Go ahead and read.
For it is not permitted unto them to speak.
Now, so listen, no, it ain't permitted unto them to speak. But this in the same Bible. This is the same writer that everybody likes to say done away with the law. Paul said we're under grace. Hey, Paul also said let your women shut up in the church too, didn't he? Now, when you come to us, different churches, different locations, and different camps we have set up, we allow women to talk and Q&A Bible study. When they have questions and stuff like that, ain't nothing wrong with that. But, hey, things get out of order, we'll exercise our right for silence to happen. For the most part, we don't have to do that because it's in order. You look at what's going on back here during this time. Listen, they got church, for the most part, churches set up in houses, and things ain't going to be able to operate smoothly. I saw it myself. Me and Brother Jediah, we had a church. We was having church in my house, and sometimes our wives get a little too aggressive, and we both have to tell them to be quiet. So I can understand exactly what Paul was saying. But we got this order going on, hey, we open up for question and answer Bible study. We can do that. Ain't nothing wrong. I'm gonna permit. We will permit that. But if it ain't permitted, hey, you got to stick with the order. He said, you got to be quiet. Let your women keep silence in the church, for it is not permitted unto them to speak. But what?
But they are commanded to be under obedience, as also saith the law.
He said, but they are commanded to be under obedience, as also saith the law. So he just taking you back to Genesis chapter 3, where the Lord had first initiated the order. When Eve sinned, the Lord said he going to put birth pains on and stuff like that. But he also told her, hey, your desire going to be to your husband. He going to rule over you. So this is what Paul taking you back to. He say they're commanded to be under obedience, as also saith the law. Then he's saying 35, what?
And if they will learn anything, let them ask their husbands at home.
So listen, then you even have some husbands here that allow their women to speak in the church. But that man got that authority. She don't have that authority over him to tell him to be quiet. Or he can't talk. No, the woman ain't got. And we've seen it several times. Sister got a question in the church, she'll ask her husband, is it okay that I ask this question? And he can tell her yes or no. Or he can say, no, we'll deal with it at home. I've done it several times. I'll be out of town somewhere. My wife will ask me a question. She'll, brothers be here dealing with the Bible study. She'll call me or text me while I'm out of town and ask me, can she ask the question? And, depending on how tough the question is, I may say, no, we'll deal with it when I get home. Because some things can lead to other things, so I can determine that being the head. But he said what? But they are commanded to be under obedience, as also saith the law. And if they will learn anything, let them ask their husbands at home. Why, brother?
For it is a shame for a woman to speak in the church.
Right, so this is why it says that, brother. So, hey, like I say, that's what Paul was saying when we setting up the churches. And, it's good. Ain't nothing wrong with it. But, hey, as Israel, we set up our churches, and if we have to exercise this power, we will. But for the most part, everything is in order. Everybody know their role, they play their role, do what they supposed to. But ain't no woman getting up here teaching this Bible. It's not gonna happen. All right? And that's not to say that the woman's not important. We go look at how, women were helping Paul set up different congregations and stuff like that. Just like today, listen, if it weren't for the sisters here, it'll be all, sweat, stink in the church, probably be dirty, bathrooms dirty. Because, listen, we only can clean so much and make it look a certain type of way so much. The women come in, they put their touch on it. They put their touch on the feast. They even put their touch on us as men. That's why a husband need a wife. So it's more to it than just you not being able to do anything. It's just that when it comes to the church and the order that God has set up, hey, he got the man there in that position to hold that position down. But the importance of a woman is very important. All right. But with that being said, it's been a blessing tonight to be able to hold down Q&A Bible study. Once again, time is flying. We're going to go ahead and get ready to pray and close out. I hope everybody was able to get edified this evening. And thank y'all for tuning in and let me take up your time. Any comments or questions before we close out? Any comments or questions before we close out?
Thank you for edifying us.
Oh, no problem, Sister Cheryl. Thank you for letting me, allowing me to have your time for these past few hours. And being so patient, too.
I wouldn't know what to do. I wouldn't know what to do on Wednesday if you guys weren't there.
Oh, wow. Well, praise the Lord for that.
This is part of my week.
Oh, yeah, that's good, man.
I look forward to it every week.
Wow, that's a blessing. That's definitely a blessing to hear that. All right, well, I guess we'll close out then. You don't got nothing else? All right, well, you go ahead, Brother Cam.
Our Father which art in heaven,
Our Father which art in heaven,
hallowed be thy name.
hallowed be thy name.
Thy kingdom come,
Thy kingdom come,
thy will be done
thy will be done
in earth
in earth
as it is in heaven.
as it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread,
Give us this day our daily bread,
and forgive us our debts,
and forgive us our debts,
and lead us not into
as we forgive our debtors.
as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into
And
temptation,
lead us not into temptation,
but deliver us from evil.
but deliver us from evil.
For thine is the
For
kingdom,
thine is the kingdom,
and the power,
and the power,
and the glory,
and the glory,
forever.
forever.
In Jesus' holy name we pray.
In Jesus' holy name we pray.
Amen.
Amen.
Peace.
All right, everybody. Y'all enjoy the rest of your week.
You do the same, Brother Nate.
All
Brother
right.
Kim.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
All right, peace in Jesus' name.
Peace to you.
What you want me to hit?
Call recording is off.